And a very good evening and a very warm welcome to you all on this January 6th, going into January 7th, 2015 on the Velocity of Now, with me, your host, as ever, Thomas Sheridan, and my website is thomassheridanarts.com. And you're listening to this exclusively now on the Thomas Sheridan Arts YouTube channel. I trust you all have eased somewhat into the new year, and you've distillated and analyzed the previous year and maybe developed some formulas and new ways of thinking going forward. The creative archetype the muse is very powerful right now. A lot of people are buzzing, making things, painting things, writing things, doing things, making babies, making stuff, and it's all wonderful, and it's what we need. It's what we need. Because the only way we're going to outwit these bastards who run the world is by our moxie, our savvy, our creativity, and being brave. So if you're a flat earther who hides behind the name Starseed Arya, well, you're a coward, and something really funny happened this week. One of these flat earth nuts posted a picture that I had shared of Morticia Addams. She's saying something funny like, darling, I'll prefer the dark side. And she used it as proof that I'm a black magician. I had a look down this Bince wall, and there was a picture of her in a black dress, dressed up like Morticia Addams. This is the kind of morons we are dealing with. This is why these people are a waste of space. This is why these people are psychotic, doomed, and finished. And so, enough about them. I just thought that was a funny way to start. Now, this show tonight, we're going to do something historic. We've had great results with the dream shows, and we're going to work on trying to create a tulpa or tulpas over a city I will mention in the end of the show, or near the end of the show, because there's lots of things I want to talk about. First, a lot of interesting things going up and down at the moment, very fascinating stuff. The first one I want to talk about is a very good story, interesting story on the BBC website that linked back to an article in Nature about how they've discovered that artists and creative people have very different shaped brains. Well, when I say shape, it means that the neural partitions and the neural pathways function quite differently. If you look at the original article going back, you can basically determine quite quickly that the brain of a creative or a dreamer, or what I call, I call everybody hillside dreamers. That's, even if you're not a creative artist in the sense that you paint, write, do poetry, you all still fall into the term I like to use, the hillside dreamers. And their brains are completely the reverse of the psychopaths. They're like the mirror image, like the flip, like the yin and yang thing. They're much more active in the frontal lobes. They're much more. That's where all the dreams and all the ideas and the decency relies. And they're much less active in the lower complex of where all the psychopaths are highly active. But it still comes back to the idea of horses for courses with your neural partitions and your neural structure. There's no doubt the underlying. Even the article says this. There's still many mysteries to the brain. The fact is, look, let's be honest. Not very few neuroscientists will ever want to admit this, but the brain is just the end of a process. That's all it is. The underlying consciousness behind that is the mechanism that creates that brain. So if you have a compassionate, artistic, or creative consciousness, you will create the kind of hillside dreamer brain. If you're a pathological, psychopathic individual, you'll be very much in the lower aspects of the brain, and this is where the eyes and the look of them in their eyes comes from, because the optical neural pathways, when they leave the eye sockets and leave the optic nerves themselves, leave the eyeballs, they go and they merge with the brain at the neural partition at the very base of the brainstem, right in the same area that the Ore complex or the reptilian complex is located. And this is why their eyes have that predatory stare or that dead stare. See, when they're in predatory mode, they have the predatory stare. When they're in this sort of like shut down zero mode, they're almost like they're sunbathing on, basking on a rock like a lizard, the eyes go dead. The reason for this is that that's the area in the brain when there is not active around that area until they're in a state of hypervigilance, when they're in predatory mode, and they at the brain of kind of like an animal, a hunting animal, and that part of their brain is flooded with melanin and flooded with norepinephrine, which is a hypervigilance hormone. And what happens then is that's why it fires and charges their optic nerves, and they get that predatory stare. Well, you never see an artist like that. When an artist is wide-eyed, it's very different. It's wide-eyed with wonder. It's wide-eyed with imagination. It's wide-eyed. It's like when a mother has a baby, and the baby does something really interesting or adorable, the mother's eyes open up in a very different way. They're filled with love and nurturing, and they're filled with a sense of wonder and amazement. Artists have the same thing when they look across a beautiful landscape. That's why I'm back to the whole hillside dreamers thing. If that's who we all should strive to be, a hillside dreamer. That doesn't mean you should become an airy fairy unicorn, uh, writing new ager. It's quite the opposite. It means you're in control of your faculties, your left and your right brain, and that stuff is still holds true. It's not that creative people are more right brain. There's an article on my website that's been there for about 2 or 3 years. It has like something like 60,000 reads at this point, and it explains the left and right thing in intelligent terms. Both your left and right brains do the similar functions, but there's a very different asymmetry between the two hemispheres of the brain, and this is an evolutionary development. They're not the same side. The cerebral partitions are two different sides. Now, the left brain, it's been theorized in some very good books that I list on that article, that say that the left brain is developed as our survival brain. It allows us to survive. Very, very important. However, over time, through probably epigenetics and conditioning, such as formal education, my new film From Prussia with Blood is out now. Please check that out. And that talks about the Prussian education system, which is the model for the American and most other education systems now. It has hypercharged and hyperwired, should we say, the left brain. So the left brain is not like being more powerful. They actually can show it in real time on an fMRI machine, that you will actually see the left brain impeding the right brain. See what happens is if the left partitions are focused towards a solution to do something, it has to impede the dreamer side of you. That's normal. That's healthy. You need that to keep you alive. And then it shuts itself off. The problem is, because of indoctrination and education, that left side brain is in a constant state of shutting the right brain off, and a constant state of shutting it down. So it's not that people who are more creative have bigger or more developed right brains. It's just that they have tamed the nerve fibers across the cerebellum that cause the left brain to say to the right brain, "Hold on a second, motherfucker, I'm trying to think here." Like when you're holding your head, saying, "You shut the fuck up, I'm trying to think." Well, that's what the left brain is doing. It's saying to the, "Hold on, just be quiet, shut down. Hold on a second." That's all it's doing. You still need that. And these people say you have to kill your left brain so you can bring your right brain forward are just the same idiots who say you have to kill your ego so you be more spiritual. You need it all, baby. You need everything. All of it. You need the whole structure going. And that's always how we have to think of these things, in a holistic way. Just because the left brain has been epigenetics and, shall we say, indoctrinated to make it more stronger and a bit of a bully boy, doesn't mean that the left side of the brain, and I'm talking here about in contextual ideas more so than actual left right, even though the brain is asymmetrical and there are definitely two specific hemispheres. The fact is that you must treat that aspect of you, that logical part of you, with love and kindness. You must treat it with love and kindness, and say, this guy is brilliant, this woman, this left side of me is brilliant, I love it. However, sometimes he needs a spanking. And you spanked him by being creative or being the hillside dreamer. Really that simple, okay? And people who tend to be... the reason why so many New Age people are evil is because they have so taken on this idea of battling their ego and and battling their left brain. That rather than them balancing out their neural partitions in their frontal lobes, they have retracted back behind their limbic regions and live in a kind of a fluffy nowhere land between the front, the upper and lower brains, and they're in the partitions of these brain cells, which are functional but are only capable of superficiality. And if you piss them off in any way, as they say, the skin comes off, what happens is they fly back into the reptilian brain, and that's where they defend their lack of activity in the frontal lobes. It's all very simple, very straightforward, but it's not as simplistic as you have a right brain and a left brain and they're both completely different. No, it's not that simple, but there's still a lot of truth to that stuff. There's been some very good work done over the years, and there's also you try to operate something backwards, upside down, away from your normal functioning, you will see how important the left-right brain balance is. So that was a good article in the BBC, and check out the article. I will post a link below on oppositional defiancy disorder, which is on my website, which shows how explains why all these like the bunker skeptics, these like Dawkins types, are all prone to being hostile and aggressive and angry and mocking. This is why Facebook identified atheists as the number one bullies online. The number one bullies online are all these people who think they're rational atheists. And it's not that they're atheists. They're not even atheists. They just become atheists because it's a fashionable fad. The reality is they are beyond bully. Now, what's a bully? Now, if you listen to some kind of crazy feminist, a bully is someone who says, I disagree with you that, that men should be all castrated. Get out of my safe zone, you misogynistic bastard! Get out of my goddamn safe zone! Get out! You're a bully! You're a bully! That's not bullying. That's having a debate. Bullying is what these atheists do, and what my neo-Nazi and flat earth stalkers do. Boy, you just dream about me giving you a big one up the ass, don't you? Don't you? When you're stalking me, coming into my Facebook PMs to make an attack on me, you just dream about me fucking sliding into you, don't you? And that's what it's all about. You love me so much, you want me so much, you spend all your time thinking about me. And the only distraction you get is probably like sharing dead babies from Gaza with their brains and guts hanging out, but you really want me. But that's what the atheists are kind of like as well. Not the atheists, but these skeptical debunkers. The real bullying is doing things like following these people, following a person that may be a Christian. Like I slag off Christians constantly, but I only do it on my own wall, and I don't go around doing it on other people's pages, and I certainly don't go into other people's PM and call them morons for being Christians or any other Abrahamic religion. That's when it's bullying, when you go after them, when you seek after them. It's one thing to say, see, we live in an age of pussies now, where someone reads something on someone else's wall that was not even meant for them, they think they're being bullied if they disagree with it. Bullying is when you go after people. You follow them around the internet with your two dead eyes in a state of hysteria and a smirk on your face as you're dropping the Xanax because you think you're so clever, and are going into the PMs and calling them morons and retards. And so-called radical atheists were identified by Facebook as the number one bullies on the internet. They were worse than radical Muslims, radical Christians, you name it, even sex stalkers. Well, they were much worse than them. They went around. You see, that's their version of a dick pic. Because these skeptical debunkers have tiny dicks and can't get a woman, I have to laugh at some of the memes they'll share. They'll show a sexy girl licking her tongue and she'll be saying something like, how she reacted when she found out you were an atheist. I got news for you, right? Those kind of women will not do that for some guy who's like sitting there with a ponytail, ball on the top, popping Xanax and has a Mythbusters collection and thinks he's a genius and a great scientist. And the kind of women who share that don't look like that chick. They look like Nora Batty or Selma from The Simpsons, Patty and Selma from The Simpsons, or whatever it's called. That's what they look like. Or what's her name from South Park? Yeah, I forgot what's the kid. Shelley. That's what they look like. They just wish they looked like that hot chick. So anyway, these atheists are just as much have delusion as these hardcore atheists. I like atheists. I think they're pretty cool actually. It's just like I like Satanists, and most of the Satanists and most of the grounded Satanists and grounded atheists I've met are really great people. No problem. I'm talking about these fucking skeptical debunkerlies. These guys, they're small dicks. And so they think they're really cool because somehow they've got it into their head that hardcore atheism is sexy. It isn't. It's not. It's just watching TV. All these fucking idiots watching TV shows like Big Bang Theory and all these these hot girls with the nerds. That doesn't happen in real life. That's just a masturbatory fantasy. It's a masturbatory fantasy of these guys. So they're all full of frustration. They're all full of fucking frustration. They're wired up and they think they're really smart. They think they're really clever and you're really stupid. So they have to go around. A lot of these will commit suicide. You can always tell. A lot of these guys end up. They're all so messed up. You can always tell. Always tell. Now, one thing I do like about the normal atheists, the ones who don't go around attacking everyone, is that they stand up towards hardcore feminists. So we have to make sure a lot of those atheist guys who are quite normal are just standing up to hardcore feminists on message boards and not stalking them around the internet. And these crazy hardcore feminists are like, they immediately declare everything bullying and rape and report them. That's not those ones. I'm talking about the ones, the guy with the ponytail and the glasses and he's half shaved, lives in his mother's basement, has a picture of Russell Brand on his wall. Them types. And Richard Dawkins. Them types. They're the ones who have been the biggest bullies on the internet. It tells you so much because what we're seeing is, again, the classic as above, so below. As above, the skeptical debunkerlies going after and bullying the hillside dreamers. So below, the left brain through the nerve fibers across the across the cerebellum, impeding the dreamier aspects of the human mind. Right. These guys doing it across the electromagnetic spectrum and the wiring of the interwebs. It's always as above, so below. Same with the flat earthers. They have issues with women. That's why they're all crazy Christians. Christianity is a religion that is devoted to the destruction of a woman, unless she's a sex slave or a breeder. And so they have flattened the woman down into a flat, breastless, sexless entity to compensate for either their own repressed homosexuality or sexual insecurities. Same thing. And the flat earth means a flat dick. As above, so below. Flat earth, flat dick. As above, so below. Flat earth, flat breast. As above, so below. People are always fascinating because when they become evangelical, and that's a different thing. Being evangelical is not the same thing as being passionate. When you're passionate about something and sharing information, you're doing it because you feel inside that it's actually helped you and helped your life, and therefore you can help somebody else. But you don't shove it in their faces. You say, look, this is what I've learned. It's cleaned up a lot of shit in my life. Maybe it can help you too. And then you walk away. But an evangelical fundamentalist is very different. What they do is they go on the warpath. They're onward Christian soldiers. It doesn't matter if they're extreme feminists, extreme atheists, or flat earthers, or global warming nut jobs. They are all the fucking same. They all operate in the same fucking way, and they're all to be avoided. No contact ever again. Ghost, and more ghost. The most spiritual thing on your Facebook page is the block button. That is your path to salvation. Because when you take these trauma vampires and these psychic vampires, and that's what they all are at the end of the day, out of your life, what you're doing is you're giving yourself, again, they're the left brain, they're the bully part of the brain. What you're doing is giving yourself space for reflection. You're not being bombarded by monstrosities that coming into your consciousness. You're relaxed. Now, that's for us. For the other side, they become more frustrated. So they just want to, the nicotine Nigel neo Nazis from Coventry and the flat earthers who are obsessed with me. Well, they probably just go downtown to the docks and they pick up some rent boy. And that's okay. It's good for them to do this. It's good for them to feel the sensation of another man's buttocks up against them, right up against them, a naked man's buttocks. It's really good for them. It's a healing force. It's a healing force for you. It'll make you feel good. It won't make you obsessed with stalking me around the internet when you feel that guy's buttocks pushed right up against you and you're heaving in a dirty, filthy alleyway. It'll make you feel good. It'll relax you. It'll spend that energy, just like Julia in 1984. Julia in 1984, when she's talking to Winston after they've made love, she says that all that kind of behavior is sex gone sour. They're sexually frustrated because if you have a happy, loving life, it doesn't even have to be sexual. It could just be loving, okay? Hugging, kissing, and all that stuff. You're spending energy and you're getting energy from the other person happily, and you're obtaining it in a beautiful way. So what happens is you feel good, you feel relaxed. You don't give a fuck, literally, about anything else. This is what Julia said. But they want to deny that in you. They want you full of hate because people who are blocked down in the pants. I'm talking downtown, honey. People are blocked down in the pants are usually blocked up in the mind. And I don't mean sexual dysfunctionality. I'm talking about they're not expressing who they are sexually. So all you misfits and oddballs who stalk me around the internet, get yourself, get yourself some loving, some backdoor action, baby. Get yourself some backdoor action, and you'll be a better person for it. And then you might find, I'm sure in time, you'll then be fully able to express your repressed homosexuality and then meet a nice guy and get married and settle down. And it'll be just great. I really want that for you. I really, really want that for you. I want you to meet the man of your dreams and to snuggle spoon him every fucking night of the week and then you go rollerblading together, and then geez, I'm stereotyping people here. Sit down and watch Will and Grace together. Sorry, gay people, I'm just making a point. I'm not stereotyping deliberately. And you'll be so much happier. You'll have no desire to hate me around the internet. You'll be free. You'll be singing those songs. You'll be sitting there going, "I'm gay and I'm free at last. I'm a free homosexual man. I no longer want to be a Nazi or a flat earther following Thomas Sheridan around the internet, cause now I'm a gay free man." And that's what your life will be like. And I'm doing this because I love you, but believe me, boys, it's purely platonic. See, this is why my radio show is the best radio show in alt media, because I'm a normal fella and I want normal people around me, and that's who I mainly attract 99% of the time. And this is why we all get on together, we can all hang out together, have a pint. There's no me at the very top going, let me tell you, I know motherfuckers, right, who have 6 listeners, if even that, on their fucking radio shows, and I've seen them at events walking around like they were power brokers and looking, looking like they weren't, they were above talking to anyone. This show gets thousands of listeners, and you could still, if you meet me on the street and want to buy me a pint, we'll find the nearest pub. That's what I'm like. Okay, I'll never change, and I hope to have lots of pints with you in the next year. I've got a lot of traveling coming to do. Let's see, I'm going to the United States a couple of times. I'm going to Malta. I'm going to Sardinia, Scandinavia, maybe Germany. I'm invited to Australia, but it's so fucking far away. I mean, and I don't think I have any fans in Australia really, like one or two. I'd love to go there, but I don't think it'd be worth it probably wouldn't be worth it for the promoters. There's some event being planned for Byron Bay, but I don't know if it'd be worth it for the promoters bringing me from Ireland, because I'd want to stay. I couldn't do that flight there and back in one go. I'd have to stop somewhere in between. So and that's only what's picked so far. And and England, of course, loads of things in England, and that's still, that the calendars and the requests are still coming in. and it's great. It's brilliant. I've got like loads of film, TV, and other projects lined up. So it's the ball is rolling for us finally. Now this is where it's important for us in alt media to keep our heads focused. You see, there's no point in us staying in the ghetto. Okay, people tell me all the time, you, Thomas, are the only radio show that I can play loud at work or loud at home for my wife or my workmates and my friends who are not woken up. You're the only one. Well, of course you don't play with the kids because I'm always telling dirty jokes. But for adults, I'm the only one that can play and feel comfortable. And they say the same thing over and over again. That guy's not a nutcase. He's very entertaining and very interesting. Now, that doesn't make me a shill or a sellout. What that does is gives me and people like me the ability to take the things that we want to express about the world and the monsters who run this planet into a wider audience. It's no use being in a truth ghetto or an alt media ghetto singing the same hymn sheet to the same people. You have to get out there and reach a bigger audience. That's the only way you will actually change the world and get the mirror neurons all firing together so we do have change, real change for something better, and not just political change, which is nothing. It's very important, very important. And that's why I'm very approachable, very laid back, very easygoing, and I'm a lot of fun. And I'm more happy. I'm just as happy having a pint and telling dirty jokes in the pub with my mates as I am up and inside an ancient megalithic monument, being awed and wowed and mind blown by what it represents, the archetypes of mythology and the people who built it, and how it relates to us spiritually, astronomically, you name it. I'm comfortable with both. I am who I am, and I like that. And most people in the world are like me. They're like me. They have no. It's very easy to say they're all sheeple out there. They're not all sheeple. They may like football, but they also may like reading about the Loch Ness Monster. They may like TV drama shows, but they may also like reading about alternative history. There's all kinds of people that we can reach. I see it in so many demographics. And the alt media audience is fucking pathetic in terms of overall, shall we say, market share. This reminds me when I was back in Wall Street. Thomas, the overall market share of alt media across the populace, across the entire demographic, represents less than 0.2% of a total market share. Can we develop a communications package that can increase that market share to above 5% so we can penetrate into the demographics we need to reach? And that's important. If we're so low in alt media that we're nothing. Nothing. If you add us all together, we're nothing. There are YouTube channels like Manjula's Kitchen, an Indian lady teaching you how to fucking cook. There's crafters. There's people who do fishing, boating. For fuck's sake, Dungeons and Dragons and model trains get massively larger audiences than these people are going around. We're gonna wake up the world. Revolution, yeah, revolution. Incoming. Warning. Gas is coming. Yeah, gases are coming. They're coming in to make you gay. They'll make you gay. Oh yeah, it's coming in. Oh, Mr. Trump. Oh, you're so hot, Mr. Trump. Incoming Trump Tower. Incoming Trump Tower. Yeah, come on. 69. 69 is the answer to 1984. Buy my water filters. Mr. Trump. We're never going to win hearts and minds with that attitude. Never, ever. But we will by entertaining people. And when I say entertaining, I mean in the broadest sense. Broadest sense, right? Think of all the movies and the books and all the comic books and all the things that you're into, right? You like comedy. You like drama. You like sex. You like fantasy. You like magic. You like horror. And you like excitement. And what do people in alt media need to do to get out and reach a bigger audience? All of the above. All of the above in equal measures, because people have diverse tastes. We like to be scared, we like to get a boner, we like to get drunk, we like to be fascinated, we like to learn, and we like to have a nice time, and we like to chill out and relax. And this is the only way we're ever going to reach it, coupled with common sense. Big part of that is not, I keep telling you, impulsively sharing these links. You're only going to trip yourself. But there's an interesting link at the moment. A nice Italian lady friend of mine in Dublin sent me. It shows, like, I didn't fully read it, but the Russians claim to have found in the Urals or somewhere a box with all these Nazi runes on it, and inside it were skulls that look like alien skulls. The photographs look fantastic. It's obviously a professional done. Now, when I say aliens, they look like demons or something, right? I would love nothing more than that for that to be true. Okay, and I still enjoyed reading and looking at the pictures in the article, but I know that there's a very good chance, if it's not fake deliberately for that ends, it's probably a scene from a Russian or a Ukrainian horror movie that's not known in the West, and that they're just props from it. Still kind of cool in its own kind of way, but people are now sharing that, saying it's real and legit. And this goes on and on and on, like the one at Building 7 collapsing when it shows all the bombs going off. That was a test done by a film person to see it, to test people's gullibility, and people share that as proof. Proof, 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 proof. It's proof of truth. Proof. I like that. Proof of truth. That's the truth laugh dog. Proof, proof, proof of truth. Laugh dog. What should we call him? Arsehole. Arsehole, the truth dog. Proof of truth. Proof of truth. He's so impulsive, he pisses all over the place without actually thinking about where he is or what he's doing. But yeah, that has to stop. But it's there for the taking, okay? When I see that alt media reaches less than a half of it, maybe even a 1/4% of market share, baby, I see 99.95 potential audience we can reach. I don't see it as defeat. I see it as uncharted territory, an untapped resource to get out there. And this is why we have to start changing our approach, our attitude, being more relaxed, being more sexy, dare I say it, being more sexy. Alt media and chill, not alt media and terror or alt media and wank. Now here's another thing that gets on my gee. I've never seen a Star Wars film in my life. Nothing against them, just never had an interest in them. Don't know what they're like, don't know what they're about. I've seen clips of them, of course, and I see, I don't know who the fuck Jabba the Hutt is. I've no fucking idea who Wookiee is, and all from the brief glimpses I've seen of it, the whole thing is an allegory for Zionism. Luke Sky, and this is what's funny about all these truthers. Donnie, I was on the Reptilian Resistance channel, the Reptilian Resistance channel 2012, and I saw this fucking documentary, right? And it made me spend the next fucking 6 weeks sharing pictures of fucking kids with their fucking brains and guts hanging out, right? Because the fucking Israelis are the cause of all the fucking problems in the world. They did everything. They make the weather shit where I fucking live, and it was all on the documentary. The name of the fucking film is what's the name of the film? The name of the fucking film is called Zion. Some fucking shit. That's all you need to know. Just want anything that has fucking Zion or fucking that in it, or fucking Talmudic, that you're getting the fucking truth here. You're getting, it's that. I am so fucking disgusted. I'm so fucking disgusted, right, by the fucking Israelis and what they did, taking the fucking weather off me and giving it to the fucking Protestants across the road, that I bought a fucking Celt. What do you mean? They took the weather off you? Yeah, they took. Look. Watch the fucking channel. The fucking Israelis, they fucking came in to my fucking town, right, and they took the fucking good weather off me and gave it to the fucking Protestants across the fucking street. Jesus, I'm sold on that. I'm sold on that. What are you doing this weekend? Well, after I finished sharing all the photographs of fucking babies with their heads hanging out, I haven't got a fucking clue where they came from, but they make me feel good. I'm going to watch the new Star Wars film. The new Star Wars film, right? Oh, Jesus, Star Wars! I fucking love Star Wars! Yeah, I love Star Wars as much as I fucking hate Israel and the fucking Jews. I fucking love Star Wars. How do you mean? Right, the Star Wars story, right? What it's about is, right, is this chap, he's fucking deadly, right? And his name is called Luke Skywalker. Right, I know, right. And he lives in the desert in, like, it looks like Israel or something, right? It looks like fucking Israel, right? But it's not. It's a great place. And these he comes back and his mommy and daddy have been killed by the stormtroopers. Right, but aren't the stormtroopers an allegory for the SS? Are you out of your fucking mind? They're not at all. But look, stormtroopers, Nazis, stormtroopers, SS. Is it not the same thing? Is Luke Skywalker not an allegory of a fella living on a kibbutz? What are you on about? Have you been fucking sniffing the fucking Yoo-hoo glue again? No, but I'm just trying. Look, you listen to me. This is why fucking Star Wars is great, right? Right. Luke Skywalker, right? He doesn't live on a fucking kibbutz, right? He doesn't live in the fucking desert, and the fucking stormtroopers are not a fucking allegory for the fucking SS. They're not. Wait. So what happens then? So he goes to the promised land. I like the Jewish promise. No, not a fuck. Look, he goes to the fucking look. They go. His whole plan. Look, Princess Leia, right? Is this fucking bored, right? She's this fucking bored, right? And right, a fucking planet is destroyed by the stormtroopers. What do you mean if the Warsaw Ghetto? Will you shut the fuck up? Will you shut the fuck up? Star Wars has nothing to fucking do with the fucking Jews and Zionism. But shut the fuck up. Now, right, then he gets, he meets this guy called Han Solo, who smuggles him out of this place where they're after the Jedi. The Jedi. No, not the fucking Jew, the Jedi. The fucking Jedi. And then they smuggle him out. You mean like those fellas in World War II that smuggled the Jews out of Europe? Look, I'll fucking kill you if you fucking do say this again. But these fuckers, right? Look, fucking listen. And Princess, right? They get the fucking. You're fucking pissing me off now. I'm losing me fucking train of thought. That's because you're fucking wrong. The fucking thing is about the Jews. It fucking is not. It fucking isn't. Now listen to me. Now fucking listen. Now shut the fuck up, right? Look, here's the fucking spliff. Shut the fuck up, right? Then they get into these jets, right? And they go fucking attack a fucking planet. But it's a fucking spaceship that's run by a Dracula, right? It's a fucking spaceship, and they drive down a big fucking corridor. Right, like the fucking Dead Sea. It's an allegory for the 67 war, and that represents the Israeli Air Force in Mirage jets attacking the Arab forces, which... Right, that's how I'll fucking do you. I'll fucking do you. If this fucking Glasgow Celtic fucking t-shirt wasn't clean and spotless, I'd fucking put your fucking head in now. Anyway. Oh god, where was I now? You were saying that the force is an allegory for it's a metaphor for what you call it, capitalism. Shut the fuck up! I'll let these two lads have a go at each other. Alright lads, can't get out fucking outside. Anyway, Deco and Anto there again. Anyway, this Star Wars thing, right? This Star Wars. The Irish tourism people, the latest film, Return of the Sphincter, or whatever it's called, the latest film, is all about, it's part of it set up, apparently. Anto, stop smoking those fucking joints. The two lads have made up now. Okay. Now, anyway, the the latest film takes place on Skellig Michael. Well, some of it takes place on Skellig Michael. Skellig Michael is these incredible couple of islands off the coast of County Kerry, southwest of Ireland. Now, what's pissing me off about that is that the Irish Tourist Board and everyone is trying to get as many tourists to visit this place as possible. Now, what makes this place interesting is that it's also, apart from the fact that it has this hermitage, which may or may not be Christian. I've yet to see any proof that that's a Christian hermitage. Could be, may not be. Also interesting in mythology is where the Milesian Gales are supposed to have arrived from Spain. Now, why would they come from Spain and land so far out west? I think that's an allegory for it's not Spaniard. I believe that's the lands that sunk when the seas rose and flooded Doggerland and what they call Atlantis, quotation marks, happened, inverted commas. Now, this place should not in any way be turned into a major tourist site. For once, it's very ecologically fragile. It is stunningly beautiful. It's like a vertical mountain coming out of the sea, a couple of them. There's small, beautiful steps to the top. Even the harbour is sympathetically created back in the 1920s. It matches nicely with the island. The last thing we need is tourist chiefs hyping that thing up. So we have this amazing place, this amazing magical place, having a gigantic cruise ship jetty built onto it, the Jedi interpretive center, where they can buy their trinkets. I don't know what kind of trinkets they sell. I didn't see the film. I don't know. Chewbacca stout, whatever. The Millennium cider at the bar and get themselves a Jedi panini and then some plastic trinkets. I'm really concerned and worried about this, but politicians and bureaucrats and civil service and media people, mainstream media people, being the whores that they are, they're really pushing this. They're really, 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 really pushing Skellig Michael as a tourist destination, and they will fucking destroy it. They will destroy it. It's all about what some politician said to me years ago. Thomas, it's about sweating the assets, sweating the fucking assets now, boy. Right, you got to sweat the fucking assets. If you have a resource, Thomas, you have to maximize it by sweating the assets. Assets, not assets, well, maybe assets. Sweating the assets. So he sweated the assets by handing the contract over to his brother-in-law. And that's how politics works. That's how democracy works. A gentleman contacted me this week. He's doing something like, we're very well intentioned, all very straightforward. And it's called the New Democracy Forum UK. And he wants me to speak at it. It's going to be to launch a new way of thinking about democracy and politics in the UK. I haven't written back to the guy yet because I don't know, I want to frame it such a way that I'm polite. But the man's, in my eyes, it's just not, the political system cannot be reformed. It's hard word not to be reformed. You cannot reform democracy. You just can't. It's not possible. You cannot reverse engineer democracy to something good because its initial creation wasn't something good. Likewise, its flux and osmosis is not geared towards making things more agreeable towards the citizenry. It's quite the other way round. It's to make it more agreeable to the government control. This is why these guys down these Bundy Ranch guys go, I'm an oath keeper. I took an oath to a document that makes me a livestock animal on a taxation farm. And I'm going to fight for my freedom to be a livestock animal. It's all bollocks. It's all about them controlling you. Our government is about that. Nothing else. Constitutions, all like that. All of them. Everywhere. Cannot be fixed. Cannot be fixed. Don't ask me what the answer is. I don't know. Don't ask me to get involved in fixing it. I can't. I'm just not that man. I don't have that in me. I have no solutions for the political system. I just know it is fucked and it can't be reformed. And that's just how it is. I can't. That's all. That's it. I feel the same way about it as I would a bad relationship. I've walked away. No contact ever again. That's how I feel about the democratic system of politics. I've walked away. The love affair that never was is over. I'm hearing songs now. All I talk about the Judai from Deco. I'm now hearing Fiddler on the Roof songs in my head. Matchmaker, good songs in that film. Matchmaker, matchmaker, me a flat. Good songs. Or flat earther, make the earth flat. Find me a baller and make his dick flat. Flat earther, make me the earth flat. Good film that. It's all part of the commercialization of magic. I mean, like natural magic. When they start selling off beautiful places and giving them to corporations, and it ties up with water, like water. You think of like how the water is the fundamental building block of our existence, yet it is the number one commercial pursuit today for the corporatists. Number one, absolutely the top one out there. That's because it is the oil of the future. Just like their ancestors in Babylon, their spiritual ancestors in Babylon, their psychopathic spiritual ancestors back in Babylon, not a racial thing, had to control the population by controlling access to carbohydrates when they developed agriculture and irrigation. They're still doing it. That's why you have all the likes of your man at Nestle saying that water isn't a human right. Water is human. I mean, there's nothing on this planet that's more connected to us than water. That is it. Ishkabaha, the water of life. And to seize control of this is to seize the very control of the life essence of a person. Now, they've always done things like that. They built have you ever heard the Great Hedge across India, where the Dutch East India Company and then later the British Empire put a huge hedge across the center of India, something like 30 feet thick, that was impossible to pass through. And the reason for this was to stop salt smuggling. You see, this is one of the things that made India fight for its independence. In hot climates, you need salt more than you do in cold climates. It's vital to existence. You die without salt anywhere, but you especially need it in hot climates. Makes you wonder about this, how they had this thing they pushed for years about salt is bad, doesn't it? How they told all the American old people to go down to Florida and take the salt and fats out of their diets, and the next thing you know, they were Alzheimer's and dead. But anyway, the Dutch East India Company and the British Empire constructed a large hedge across India that took enormous manpower to keep it open and to maintain it, and that was to stop salt from being transported illegally, inverted commas, into southern India. So therefore, the southern Indians would totally depend on the salt merchants to stay alive. Well, these salt merchants, and we look back at that today and say, oh, that's immoral. Of course it was immoral, but it's the same thing as Dennis O'Brien in Ireland and people in other countries putting water meters on the drinking water supply into your home. It's the same immorality. It's exactly the same. It's psychopathic, it's wicked, and it's evil. These vampires seek to control all human existence. It's the same thing. And water is the new oil, and Ireland will be the Saudi Arabia in the future of water. You're going to see massive pipelines coming out of this country. They're building a pipeline at the moment, they're planning it, to go from the Shannon to Dublin, because Dublin doesn't have enough water. That's true, but that's only and that would be no problem if it was just for that reason. That pipe is eventually going to go under the Irish Sea and feed Britain with water, with a big meter on it that people like Dennis O'Brien and other corporatists can profit from. And you will see gigantic. We have so much rainfall in Ireland, so much fresh water. It's to condition us. The whole water metering thing here is really to condition us to see water the same way Arabs see oil. The ones at the top get to sell it and become super rich. The ones at the bottom can't get access to it, even though it's under their feet. And you will have gigantic tankers leaving places like Ireland and Scotland and going around the world full of fresh drinking water. Water is the new oil. Big time. Big time. And if I was to be conspiratorial about it, I think that fracking is a major part of this. And we see that now with the flooding happening in England. The flooding all happened in areas, and mainly all happened in areas that have been primed from fracking, which means that all the chemicals and all the other things, the gases and everything used in the fracking industry will contaminate that water when the flood waters go back. There's an interesting logo I saw for board gash, as we call it here in Ireland. They're one of the utility suppliers, and they showed a picture. It was about water, but it was about gas, and it showed a picture of water with gas bubbles in it, air bubbles. It was supposed to be air bubbles, and then it got my conspiratorial mind thinking: is this the plan here? They're going to contaminate all drinking and groundwater supplies with gas and other fluids that even if you got it to your house for free, even from a private well, it would still be poisoned. You would still need some kind of utility machine, a reverse osmosis meter, to remove the bad stuff that they put in there from it so you would get fresh drinking water. And was that the real meaning of all these bubbles in the water? How anyone in England, after the recent flooding, could support fracking now is beyond me. Beyond me. It really shows how fucking dangerous and what a horrific scenario it paints for places that have been picked for fracking. I think fracking is probably dead in the water, but you never know ironically. But we have to make sure that fracking is dead in the water rather than fracking doesn't leave our water dead. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. Sunrise, sunset, flat earth, flat dick. Speaking of revelations, not the biblical one, it's only in recent times I've come to see what an absolute genius the folk singer Pete Seeger was, and how in many ways he was probably the first punk rocker. I used to think the first punk rocker was someone like the Dubliners, but he preceded the Dubliners, so he probably had a huge influence on them. I'm sure he did, but some of his songs are incredibly subversive for the time, especially when he was singing songs like "What Did You Learn to School Today" at the time of McCarthyism. And the song is very cleverly done. It's delivered in the style of a nursery rhyme, so it sounds benign and harmless. At the same time, the lyrics could be misinterpreted one way or another. So some kind of Yahoo patriot would think that the lyrics of the song you would not see the irony in them, that they would actually think that they were directly being delivered. In reality, it is a piece of satire making people think, encouraging young people to think for themselves, and school is the place where you go for your Prussian indoctrination to worship the state as if it's a god. It was genius, and a lot of his other songs are very genius too. And a lot of the other records have struck me, like "Which Side Are You On?" They have a great sound to them. There's almost a haunting quality to much of his music. The way he played that long banjo, that 5-string banjo, and plucked it in a very percussive kind of way, and is singing on top of that, nice looking man with a happy face. Now, I heard some people say he was controlled opposition. Look, all this stuff is controlled opposition to one degree or another. That's how it gets to be shown on mainstream TV, although he didn't really. But a lot of it has to do with that. At the same time, too, that does not negate the fact that the underlying message behind the song is not a valid thing. And doing it as a pop song is a very brilliant way of doing it. The Jam, when they broke up, Paul Weller went on to form a band called like a white soul band called the Style Council, with very Motown. They're a much better band than the Jam, to be honest with you. And I like the Jam, but the Style Council were way better. And the songs were often extremely subversive, but delivered in a happy, clappy manner, such as "Welcome to Milton Keynes," the bland suburb in England, a city in England that's just a planned, soulless community built around a shopping centre. An awful place, actually. I hated it any time I was there. That's where Edge TV was based out of. And that's not to put down people who live in Milton Keynes. It's just that I don't like those planned, soulless modern towns that are built around shopping centres. But there was the song "Welcome to Milton Keynes." It was like, "Shall I slash my wrist tonight? On this bright and lovely night, I was looking for a job, so I came to town. I'm totally," and it's very good. And another one is "Life at the Top People's Health Farm," and he sings about people who claim to be socialists, and on the mantelpiece they have a picture of Trotsky and the royal family, and they're all done in a happy, clappy, dancey way. And it was definitely, he did later on do harder stuff like Confessions of a Pop Group 123, which is a really nasty funk song, and you know, it's really about the Americanization of Britain through the Thatcher years. But Pete Seeger was the first to do that. He was a true bard in the true sense. And was he controlled opposition? Nah, he wasn't. But he was used as a form of controlled opposition. But that's not the same thing. You have to sell your soul sometimes to the devil in order to point the way towards goodness. It's just the way it is. It's just sometimes you have to stand on the devil's shoulder in order to say, hey, look, everybody, the answer's over here, the real answer. It's neither black nor white, up nor down. It's over here. And that's how it works. So Pete Seeger, at this stage of my life, long after he's dead, I'm discovering that he was an absolute genius. Another example of that is Bruce Springsteen's song "Born in the USA." All these like white boy crackers in America, when I was living there, thought the song was a celebration of the greatness of being an American. And if you listen to the lyrics, it's the other way round. It's all about what was done to the Vietnam War generation. Bruce Springsteen gets an awful lot of stick. I actually think he's a far better songwriter. I think when he's dead, people will say, God, he was pretty good. But I mean, he's written some amazing songs and doesn't get enough credit for it because of his superstar kind of status and all this. He suffers from the same thing that Bono suffers for. It won't be until they're all gone that people would say that, oh, like, you two were, after all, a pretty amazing band at times. The same will happen to Springsteen. But Born in the USA, that track, is a classic example of Bruce Springsteen delivering an anthem that on the surface through the chorus sounded like a homage to nationalism, but the verses were very different. And I even believe that Bruce Springsteen went on tour around the world with his band doing concerts of just nothing but Pete Seeger songs and songs like that. So there you go then. So Pete Seeger, a much more influential figure in rock and roll than we have been led to believe. Well, certainly I have led to people believe. That's my fault, not his. If I was reptilian, daddy, 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 dum, all day long I'd shape shifty. If I was reptilian, I'd build a house that looked like Buckingham Palace with hot and cold running monarchs and slaves. I don't know why I'm on the Fiddler on the Roof thing. I don't know why. I don't know. Wow, we're really up to the first hour already on this fucking show, and I haven't got to the main subject. I still haven't got to it, but it's showbiz, baby. That's why I'm here. That's why I'm here to keep you informed, entertained, and interested. And what else was I going to fucking talk? Oh yeah, I meant to talk about this during the Christmas show, and it's about the idea that the Irish famine, or as the Americans call it, the Irish potato famine. They only ate potatoes. The Irish were like an insect or an animal, like a koala can only eat eucalyptus leaves. The Irish were the same. They could only eat potatoes. They could only eat them. And when the potatoes were taken away by the blight, the Irish starved because they didn't eat other foods. No, that's why it's the potato famine. Those of you who watched the film From Prussia with Blood, be very aware of the idea that this sort of Anglo-Prussian aristocracy, now I'm talking about the aristocracy here, that they have no regard for human life and they don't seem to understand humanity. You've also heard of this, we talk about senior civil servants. How many senior civil servants are almost always the biggest monsters in government. Although we elect and unelect politicians every 4 years or so, in democracies, whether they be parliamentary democracies or republican democracies, the senior civil service remains. And yet they do not get the blame for the policies that they often implement, advise upon, and administer. Now, one senior civil servant that people in Ireland know about, but the rest of you probably don't know about, is someone called Sir Charles Trevelyan, and he was a first baronet. And he lived between 1807 and he died in 1886. And he was a British senior civil servant and a colonial administrator for the British Empire. When he was young, he grew up working in Calcutta in India, and in the 1850s and 1860s, he served at the top level of the British Empire. A century and a half after his death, this guy, now this is the difference between government and humanity. In Ireland, he's considered on par with Mengele. In Ireland, Lord Trevelyan, or Sir Charles Trevelyan, is considered on par with Mengele because he was basically in charge of Ireland during the famine. And it's been said about him that his most enduring mark on history is his quasi-genocidal anti-Irish sentiment he expressed during his term in the critical position of administrating relief for millions now, of Irish peasants, rural peasants, suffering under the famine, while he was Assistant Secretary to His Majesty's Treasury. Between 1840 and 1859, the Irish famine happened roughly around 1847 to 1849, in the middle of his tenure, when he was under the Whig administration of Lord Russell. Now, the BBC, on the other hand, portray him quite differently. Oh, he's a wonderful man to the BBC. Wonderful man. And you know why? Because his lasting contribution to history is that in the 1850s, he made a publication for Stafford Northcourt's report on the organisation of the permanent civil service. The report led to the transformation of the civil service, education standards, and competitive administration examinations ensured that a more qualified body of, now this is the interesting one, a more qualified body of civil servants would become administrators, meaning he was the one who in real time and in real life created the Orwellian inner party. The civil servants, the cold-blooded civil servants at the very top, who are only interested in furthering their own careers, and if genocide is a part of that, if they believe that will impress the king or the president or the politicians, it's just business. It's incompetent. You see, at the lower levels of the civil service, people like Trevelyan created this culture where it's just mostly morons, idiots who cause enormous problems, who waste vast amounts of public money. But there's a purpose you have that level there, because they will never threaten the monsters and the psychopaths in the senior civil service. And that's what the BBC think the BBC talk about the civil service as this wonderful thing. It's the civil servants are a buffer between the people, just like the trade unions are a buffer between the real people, the real masses, and the senior government. Now, during the height of the famine in Ireland, it was suggested that Trevelyan deliberately dragged his feet in disbursing direct government food and monetary aid to the Irish, and he had this belief in laissez-faire economics and a free hand of the market, meaning basically that if the British government sent food and money to the starving Irish, who they were actually in charge of at the time, at the same time, and remember this, those of you who go, the potato famine. Ireland had the 8th largest economy in the world and was one of the world's largest food exporters. All kinds of food. It was the poor peasants who were on the potatoes, just like the poor coal miners in Wales were on the potatoes, the poor mill workers in Yorkshire were on the potatoes. And it was under a British government rule that should have put in there. But because Irish aristocratic farmers now, as well as British landlords in Ireland, did not want British government coming in and flooding the country full of food and money because it would have undercut the price of their produce. He agreed with this and said, let the free market take care of it, while at least 1.5 million died. At least 1 million. We'll never know the real number, as British troops, now quantified, took Irish food at gunpoint and brought it to the harbours for export. There were more troops in Ireland during the famine than there were in the entire British Empire all around the world put together. The country next door. The smallest town had a garrison, and its job was to point the bullets and the bayonets at the Irish and take their food off them. There's no other way to list this. It was absolutely genocide. He wrote a letter, Trevelyan, to the Irish peer, to an Irish peer, the first Baron of Brandon, Monteagle. And Brandon, that's an interesting name, Monteagle, the Mount of the Eagle. And this guy would have been Irish. He probably would have been Prussian or something like Prussian aristocrat as well, going back to that lineage. And he was also a former Chancellor of the Exchequer. And he described the famine as, wait for this, an effective mechanism for reducing the surplus Catholic population of Ireland, and as well as the judgment of God. And that's not even mentioned on the BBC website. He wrote a letter to a peer saying that Ireland was overpopulated and this mass starvation will reduce the population of Catholics, as well as because it is part of the judgment of God. His detractors complained that after Trevelyan was aware of the numbers who died in the Irish famine, he did not express any remorse for his comments, even after the full dreadful scope of the famine became known. His defenders claimed that Trevelyan's personal problems and religious beliefs were more central to the problem. Doesn't matter. So what if he has religious beliefs led to 1.5 million people starving at least? It doesn't matter. It was written about him that his mind was powerful, his character scrupulous and upright, his devotion to duty praiseworthy, but he had remarkable insensitiveness, since he took action only after contentiously satisfying himself what he proposed to do was ethical and justified. He went forward impervious to other considerations, sustained by also his blinded conviction of doing right. He was an extreme Christian fundamentalism. He was starving and killing the Irish peasantry as a blood sacrifice to Jehovah, the god of the born-again Christians, the psychopathic demon of the Middle East. It was a feeding frenzy by the demon that these born-again Christians all worship. He was born in Taunton, Somerset, the son of a Cornish clergyman, right? But these people don't rise to the ranks unless they have serious connection. However, his paternal grandfather was Sir George Trevelyan, right? So therefore, he came from the old school, was in the old school, and was very connected heavily to the East India Company when he was part of his education. His parents were members. His parents were members of something called the Clapham sect. They were sophisticated families noted for their severity of principles as much as their fervent evangelicism. So they were powerful British aristocrats and civil servants and other types in the army who coupled that with evangelicism. So in Presbyterian born again type stuff. So this is the same psychosis that America is under, and America was under, right? He was a student of the economist Thomas Malthus. Now, Malthus is a disgusting creature who was also terrified of Catholics, and he was also a Presbyterian clergyman who said that Catholics, he showed these, he got these, that's still used to this feckin' day. He pulled out these charts and other things showing that population growth would soon, and they would eventually, and it's all rubbish. It's all rubbish. It's been still used to this day. It never came through. And Trevelyan's rigid adherence to Malthusian population economics during the Irish famine is often attributed to this. But this is like so. I learned Malthusian economics. These millions must starve. It's the right thing, and God is the judger. I mean, this is what these people are like. But ultimately, it's all about human sacrifice. That's if it doesn't have religion, it's sacrifice to the state. And it says it's an action and it's personal hatred of the Irish. Not the BBC and other British institutions will say personal negativity or distaste. Hatred is the word, right? Is widely believed to have slowed relief deliberately for starving people in Ireland. In one letter dated on the 29th of April 1846, Trevelyan wrote, "Our measures must proceed with as little disturbance as possible of the ordinary course of private trade, which must ever be the chief resource for the sustenance of the people. But, at any cost, the people must not, under any circumstances, be allowed to starve." Meanwhile, he watched Irish with increasing anger as boatloads of homegrown oats and grain departed on schedule from Ireland for shipment to England and around the world. Food riots at the time erupted in places such as Youghal in Cork, where people tried to starving people unsuccessfully tried to confiscate boatloads of oats. At Dungarvan in County Waterford, British troops were pelted with stones and fired live rounds into the crowd, killing people who were just looking for food. British naval escorts then provided for riverboats. So imagine that, like you had Irish people who were starving for food, right? Starving. The food is being their farms and their mills and all are shipping tons and tons of food out of the country. They ascend on the docks and they go, "We want food. We're starving. Our children are starving." They go and try and take the food, and the British Royal Navy come in with battleships and fucking kill them. And these people call themselves civilized. And then you have certain people in England who wonder why the Irish have a long grievance with the British Empire. Well, that's fucking why. It's not against the English people. It's not against anyone like that. It's against Trevelyan and the kind of people at the top of the British system. This is why if I was offered to go to Israel to do an art thing or something, I would go in a moment and I'd have to listen to someone going, "Oh, Susie now, he's going over there to Israel. They're evil." I go to England all the time. I have loads of English friends I love and care very deeply about. Your country is much more evil and has been much more evil than Israel ever has been. Deal with it and try and remember that the next time you're in your psychosis sharing images of dead babies. It's not everyone in those countries is responsible, but people have grievances against governments in other countries for things like this. There are still hundreds of bodies around my house of people that died in the ditches here, trying to get to the workhouses. Hundreds. They still dig skulls up all the time. This is real. It's not a joke. He was, and then to get things worse, this piece of shit, Trevelyan, then in the 1850s, along with Sir John McNeill, start the Highland and Island Emigration Society, and they do the same to the Scots during the Highland clearances. They clear Scotland out of Scottish people in order to fill it with fucking sheep. This is what these civil servants at the top, these Jehovah worshipping bastards are like. This is what you're dealing with. And this is why I can't stomach this idea that they're just doing their jobs. At some level, they're involved in a ritual. They're involved in rituals. And even the things that come afterwards, songs about the Irish famine, famine memorials, that's all part of the energy harvesting ritual. There's some very sad songs and paintings about the Highland clearances and Scottish people being led. A lot of Scottish people were sent to Ireland, by the way, being out of frying pan into the fire. and did the whole thing. That's why I don't. I get pissed off about the things like these, the Highland clearances, and I get pissed off about things like the Irish famine. But it doesn't make me want to go to war or anything. It makes me want to. It makes me see everything as a fucking ritual. Even years later, the memorials are rituals. They're all about harvesting energy for this demon they all worship. But that's who Lord Trevelyan. Go look it up. Piece of shit. And you know, his obsession with Jehovah and the Old Testament and God judging proves absolutely that these motherfuckers were doing a ritual. Oh, but it just serves to to show how everything is a ritual. Like even that whole Hampstead hoax thing, it was all about energy harvesting, and no one gave a shit about the kids. No one. It was all about it's disgusting, and the fact that there was some very dubious, the usual dubious creatures involved in that. And the people put, oh, children don't lie. Children, they don't lie. They don't lie. They don't lie. Children lie all the time. Children lie all the time. Everything like that is a ritual. Everything. It's all about anything to do with harvesting your energy one way or another is a ritual. That's why these wankers went down to the Hampstead Church in a witch hunting state going, satanic pedophile! Satanic pedophile! I know I keep harking on about that story, but it really does upset me. Because to see that kind of thing happening, and also my biggest fear of these pedomanics is that they're basically at war with all human sexuality. Everything, all normal human sexuality is proto-pedophilia to these lunatics. They're the new Puritans. They got to be stopped at all cost. There's nothing wrong with consenting healthy adults in the business of their own homes. That's no one's business. None. Even that story, excuse me, that broke recently about the British politician sending sex texts to that some slag bondage prostitute. Even that they were going on about. It's a pedophile. It's a satanic pedophile. You know, no, it wasn't. She was a 17-year-old bondage madam. She was a hoe. She was a skank and a hoe. She wasn't some innocent child, but they jumped on that right away. Immediately that becomes pedophile, pedomania, fucking mania. It drives me insane.
Up there, if it's so dangerous. Well, we stay because Anatevka is our home. And how do we keep our balance? That I can tell you in one word.
Pedomania! 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 Satanic pedophile and pedomania! Oy vey.